If you could hear from teachers around the world, what would you want to know? We asked you, the Diesel crew, all around the globe, to share your favorite tips and tricks that all teachers should know.
That's right. We wanted to celebrate the listeners of the show, so episode 100 is for you and by you, the Diesel crew.
Welcome to the Diesel podcast, where we focus on developing innovation in English as a second or other language.
I'm Brent Warner, professor of ESL at Irvine Valley College and blogger for Tesol, amongst other things. And I'm here, as always, with the esteemed Ishel Reyes, award-winning educator in innovation, professional development, specializing in teacher training with an Edtech focus.
Oh, that was long. Before we get started, we're going to take a few minutes to celebrate and share about a few changes.
Yeah, so first up, congratulations, episode 100.
We made it. Did
I
we
know.
make it? We
Did you
made
ever
it.
think we were going to get to 100 episodes? What
Oh
were
my
you thinking?
gosh, no. I 100 seemed so distant.
Yeah,
Uh
it's a little
yeah,
hard to
it's
kind of imagine that, right?
yeah, most
It's
shows don't make it to 100.
most shows don't make it to 10, right? And
Also
so
true. Also
yeah,
true.
yeah. So I wasn't really thinking of it actively, like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna make it to whatever number here or whatever. Like that wasn't really in my thought process, but I did actually. I think I did think that once we got to around 50, I was like, and we did episode
It's like,
50
oh,
reflection. I'm
we
like,
have
oh
a
yeah,
few things to say
yeah.
and
And there's a
share,
lot
don't
more to,
we?
and like even and now there's like more and more to talk about. So I
hmm
think I bet we're gonna get to episode 200.
Woohoo.
So a couple things that we wanted to share a little bit about here, just so that people are aware. We've made a few changes, starting with episode 100. Where there are some changes that are coming about and that are maybe a little bit already in place. Starting with some design changes. So, Michelle, we have a new logo.
A new logo. Yes, we do.
Yeah, what do you think of it? Or can you
I love
describe
it.
it?
It is minimalist and it embraces everything that Diesel stands for, I think.
I love it. Yeah, so we
In
got
a
this.
minimalistic.
Yeah, so it's kind of a D drop shaped D, and then it has like a little drop, so a little orange drop in the middle of it. And so you can take a look. So it should be on the new episodes. So if you're listening to the
This
show right
episode.
now, yeah, if you're listening to this episode, you should be able to see it right there in your podcatcher. But the kind of concept behind it is like drops of knowledge and diesel drops of fuel, and the letter D to be a kind of a little bit more of a, like you said, a minimalist shape to capture, focusing on
How
the
we started.
essentials.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it does still have kind of matching colors. We got that kind of a deep purple, and orange and white, and so we can mix those up as we need to. But yeah, and then we've also updated our, I guess we call it a mascot, right? The cartoon picture of the two of us
Yeah.
as
Our
well.
little man, I never knew how hard it was going to be to get an updated version of my head.
Yeah, so I think both of us are a little bit, just a little bit more modern in how we look. So I've got my beard and glasses, you've got your headphones and a few other things.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit more modernized. Not a huge change for that. And so glad to get all that done. But we've got a few other changes that are here too.
Yeah, we also have some structural changes. You'll start to notice them. Show will typically be a bit shorter and punchier. Not
Mhm.
this episode. This episode's actually a little longer because we're celebrating. You may also notice some small formatting changes. And we're also adding more to YouTube. So our outside content is now going to be playing more. We're going to be playing more on YouTube and seeing where that leads us.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got some videos that are going up there,
Mhm.
some of the things that we're experimenting with, etc. So if you're interested, check us out, where we're making these changes. Let us know what you think about things. A few things, Ishel, are not changing, right? The fundamentals of the show, right? We're still focused on helping teachers explore creativity and possibilities in the English language classroom.
That's right.
And I think we're also, we continue to be focused on applying activities and strategies to research-based practices, right? So the best ways that we can do these things, and having open conversations and trying to see what's going on in the world and what's happening in language learning and all of these things. So the core of the show is still there, just a little bit of mixing it up for the 100th party zone. All right, so Ishel, episode 100, here we are. We've got kind of 4 sections here. We reached out to everybody. We left messages as many places as we could. And so we've got friends of the show, we've got past guests, we've got listeners of the show, all sorts of people called in, left some messages for us, and we kind of broke down their tips and tricks into 4 categories. So we kind of have our tools, then activities, and by the way, I'm just going to clarify, some of these things are hard to say they're only in one category, so we just did our best to
They
kind
might
of
cross
to get them in there.
over
Yeah, they
or
cross over. So but anyways, we've got tools, we've got activities, and then we've got kind of strategies for students and strategies for teachers. And so first, just before, everybody who called in left messages, thank you so much. Some of
Thank
these
you
we had to
so
do,
much.
yeah, we had to do a little bit of editing either for brevity or for clarity. So sorry if we cut a couple of words out here or there, if something changed a tiny bit, but the core of your message is absolutely there. And we're going to go in by section. So Ishel, are you ready to jump into tools?
I am ready to jump into tools.
All right.
Hello, this is Michelle Queter. I teach adult ESL. And first of all, I want to say congratulations, Ishel and Brent, on 100 episodes. That is so awesome. My favorite teaching tool is the website WordWall. I love this website because I can make so many fun games, from vocabulary to pronunciation to multitasking. And what's really neat is that you can add a vocal track to the game where the game will say the words or the expression or the idioms. And you can also add pictures pretty easily. And so I just really, really love WordWall. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Ilka Koska here from Northeastern University. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite tools and one that I'm using a lot at the moment. It's an AI-based tool called Twee, Twee. You can find it at twee.com. And I like it because it's made for English teachers. So there are tools there that you can use to help students with reading, with vocabulary and grammar. And I like it especially because I have been using it to make materials to support my use of a flipped learning approach. So outside of class with flipped learning, students engage with the content. They either read or watch videos or watch interactive videos. And then an important part of this is checking their comprehension before class. So I use Twee to create multiple choice questions for YouTube videos and readings. You can create open-ended questions and true-false activities as well. And all of these form the basis for collaborative in-class work. So that's my 2 cents. Hope that everybody will give it a try.
Hello, this is Nasser Josri from Bahrain. Being ESL instructor is a challenge. Teaching Arabic native students, especially teenagers who are just graduated from high school, and one of my techniques or teaching techniques, and which is favorite technique, Realia. I use Realia. This technique makes my student understand clearly. It works with me. I love it. And my favorite tools, the first one, and it's really my favorite, which is Kahoot. This website makes my students so interactive, so competitive. They love it, and it's really easy to prepare the questions. My second tool, which is called Flip, this one also is very good because you can make sure that your students do their homework, reading homework properly. They can record themselves and post it on that website, that application. It's really good. So that's it. These are my techniques, and thank you for listening. Accept my regards.
Hello, my name is Charlie. I work as a Director of Studies at a language school in Spain. And my top teaching tip for English language teachers is to start using Canva now. I've reviewed a lot of their tools on my YouTube channel, Charlie's Lessons, and the tools I love are, for example, building worksheets that are designed especially for your students, using their presentation tool, which is probably one of the best out there, and also their new whiteboard, which you can use in online classes. So yeah, bye.
Hello, this is Dayamudra Dennehy. I teach ESL at City College of San Francisco. I primarily teach online, and I always spend the first week building community. And so one of my favorite things to do with a tech tool is to use Padlet. At the very end, the last assignment that the students do is create advice to future students. I ask them, what advice will you give to future students to be successful in this class? Think about strategies you have used to do your best work and share with them. Be positive and encouraging. So Padlet gives you a beautiful bulletin board, and a lot of times the students add their pictures, and at this point they're very successful in the class. They finish the whole semester, and my new students read that as their first discussion forum, and I just ask them, take a look and notice the patterns on the student responses, what surprises you, what motivates you, and what is most helpful to you. So I hope you'll enjoy using Padlet in this way. My students always let me know that this is one of their favorite activities, and it sets the semester off with a really nice positive tone, and students might come in feeling nervous about the class, but they feel very encouraged hearing from one another. So I hope you try it.
All right, so that is our first round of tools. We got WordWall, we got Twee, Realia, Kahoot, Flip, Canva, Padlet, lots of different things. What I love about these, Michelle, they're kind of like classics, right? Like they're
They
like
are the classics.
yeah, and to me, I'm like, you know, there's so many new conversations, all the AI stuff, and like, and Twee is AI integrated and all those things too. But it's like one of the things that always stands out to me is like it's great to explore all these things, but when you find what works, you stick with
It
what
works
works.
and you
Right?
stick with it. Yeah. And also it's cool to hear people from other nations are also using these tools.
Yeah. So a lot of these people are friends of the shows. Daya, Michelle, Ilka. So, anyways, it's just exciting. Sorry, I'm all
Yeah.
like I'm on the party high right now.
We're I guess I would be fangirling, you would be fan what?
Fanboy.
It's our listeners.
Yeah,
So cool to hear
it's
from
our
them.
friends.
Thank you
So
so
and
much.
and then I really liked here too that Daya's Padlet one kind of
Yeah.
was also it transitioned into an activity, right? And so how you use that as an idea to kind of keep the connection between everybody. But I think we'll use that as our way to switch right into some of these activities. All right, here we go.
Hello, I am an English instructor in the Thai Army, and today I would like to share my favorite teaching activity. So, whenever I have to teach English to my military students, I would come up with activities that relate movements. You know, kinesthetic activities that encourage total physical response. For example, I would act out a dialogue as if I were rehearsing for a live performance. Then, I would turn to focus on some pronunciation aspects by conducting front and back chaining. You can say that it is a color drilling, but my students have to act out the dialogue and practice pronouncing the target language at the same time. Okay, now everyone, listen. I am an English instructor. I am an English instructor. Now everyone, point your finger, I mean your index finger, to yourselves and repeat after me. I am an English instructor. I am an English instructor. I am an English instructor. So, you have learned how to pronounce I am as I am, and you can remember it quickly because you have acted out the target language, right? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Andrea Earle, and I'm a longtime math teacher, currently working as a certificated learning and achievement specialist for the Santa Ana Unified School District. Congratulations on your 100th episode. So exciting. My favorite strategies revolve around EduProtocols, specifically Thin Slides and the Frayer model. I really like using these strategies because they provide students with the all-important think time to produce, and then something to talk about. Anytime I can get my students talking, it's a win. But many students are not confident in what they have to say. So giving them think time makes all the difference. Thanks again for all you guys do to help support students and staff.
Hi, this is Denise Meduli Williams, and I am an English and ESOL professor at San Diego Miramar College, teaching community college students. And the tip I want to share today is affinity mapping. And this is something that I use in both my online, hybrid, and in-person ESOL classes. It's kind of like a collaborative sorting activity, and you can use it with many different levels and with many different content areas. And I learned this technique the way I do it through the San Diego Area Writing Project. So a shout out to SStop. So I'm just going to walk you through how I have used it in the past. So for example, students might be reading a text and I would have them silently read and give them maybe 2 to 3 post-it notes and ask them to write down either some general phrases or even to copy down golden line or sentences that really resonated with them and that they found important for some reason as they read. And then what I would then have them do is I would break them into groups and I would have big poster boards if we're doing it in person around the classroom. And would have then students maybe in groups of 4 or 5 or maybe more go to each poster board. And then this is important, and which is what I learned from SStop, is to silently put their post-it notes onto the poster board. And then for them all to silently read all the different notes. And again, these are quotes or takeaways from the text. And then I would have students silently start moving and organizing these notes into groups based on similarities or natural affinities. And the reason why this is so great to do silently is because it allows for equitable participation for everyone, encourages thoughtfulness. It gives everyone with different levels time to read and think and move the notes. And it can be kind of fun to watch because you'll see students move one note to one area and then someone else will move it to another one. And then things will just kind of magically form into groups. And so after some time, I will then tell the students, okay, now please talk about the groups you have formed. And then at that point, students in their groups can then discuss the little groupings of post-its and categories that have been created. And then now they have the chance to talk about it in a meaningful way and have a discussion and give reasons for the groupings and then start moving them again. And then once they have decided on that, then as a group, they label each of the categories, which forces them to articulate the connections they see and the reasons why these groups are formed. Finally, the groups can then move around and review the different posters and see the different groupings that have formed. We can discuss it as a class and see the different takeaways that have come from one reading. So for me, this is really useful because Students are able to participate equitably. If we think of a regular discussion or something in class, we might have just a few voices, but here we literally have everyone's voice. Students have the opportunity to silently participate and be thoughtful, and then verbally have the chance to discuss with each other, supporting their vocabulary development, grammar, listening, critical thinking skills. And then we get to see the different areas of content that were most important to students. And it's a really student-centered activity. It is not led or fronted by the teacher in terms of what the teacher thinks is the most important takeaways. The students do. So I've used this in so many different ways. It's a versatile tool in any class. If you want to move it to the online setting, you could use a digital tool. I used to use Jamboard for this. I'm sure there's many other different tools that you could use in the online setting. Okay, and so have fun. I hope that you guys try out affinity mapping.
Congratulations, Esol and Brent, for creating 100 fascinating podcast episodes. It's quite an achievement. My name is Eric Roth. I teach at the University of Southern California and work with mostly international graduate students on their speaking and writing. The tips I'd like to talk about today are the importance of creating classroom rituals. And I want to talk about two of them. The first one is turning a bureaucratic necessity, taking attendance, and turning it into a meaningful opportunity for student expression. How? I ask a question on every single day for every single class. Students, it can be a very simple question. If we're talking about hometowns, could you give us 4 adjectives to describe your hometown? Of course, no student should use the same adjective. So if you have a class of 12 students and 4 adjectives per student, that's 48 vocabulary words. If it is a class of 15, that becomes 60 adjectives. If it's a class of 20, now we're up to 80 adjectives. So it's a wonderful way to reinforce this. It has some other advantages. It introduces and reinforces the day's lesson. It checks off that bureaucratic necessity. It allows students to express themselves. It builds group cohesion. I think it encourages student curiosity too. If you want to add a pithy, relevant quote at the bottom, that's adds another layer of sophistication. Often students appreciate. If I catch a student, for instance, having problems with plagiarism, then the next day I'll use a Shakespeare quote of "all's well that ends well" to encourage them. I've done this with high school students, adult education students, community college students, and of course, university students. The second tip I'd like to talk as a classroom ritual is ending the class by reviewing the good mistakes. If we've heard a series of class presentations, I'll pick out 4 or 5 good mistakes that we heard during that day without identifying any student. Likewise, if we've worked on writing and peer reviews that day, as I've gone around, I've made notes and chosen 4 or 5 good mistakes that we can learn from. Good mistake is one that once identified, it's a logical error. Once identified, we know the pattern, and then we can choose more appropriately. So 2 + 2 = 22. No, that's a good mistake. But once we show that it equals 4, then we can make a new and different mistake. Classroom rituals help establish and reinforce clear expectations, help students increase student comfort, and add a level of help create a positive learning environment. So we open with a question, we close with a review of good mistakes. So celebrate classroom rituals. That's my tip for English teachers. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And again, congratulations on a fantastic show.
That is so neat. There are so many moments where I'm over here you guys can't see me, but I'm smiling and I'm just like, wow, what a great activity. And the thing is, I've seen some of these happen. I love how we got examples within the sharings of how to try these activities, right? The choral drilling and acting, or even the word front and back chanting, right?
Yeah.
For pronunciation.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say the whole aspect of TPR, and sometimes I have to do that with my students. I have to repeat it, and I make them make a signal, because that's what they'll remember.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, when you're looking at, so many students really, like, especially as they're beginners, right? And like really having that opportunity to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm going through this physical process. I get it.
Right.
I was actually really happy to see that Andrea Earl submitted on there too. She's a math teacher, right? And so you're like, wait a second, I thought this is an ESL show. And it's like, that is one of my favorite things, is like crossing over the, out into a different world and taking information. I know that Andrea listens to the show pretty regularly, and so I love that she's like, oh, okay, let's figure out some different ideas, even though it's not specifically my field. Of course, she has ESL students in her classes, but and then she talked about Edu protocols. We did have John Carippo on the show.
Yeah, thin slides. I know you love thin slides.
Yeah, they're great, and so so bringing those in, and then Denise and Eric both are just like rock stars. They're always coming up with amazing stuff, always sharing tons of interesting information. For Denise's activity, I love that idea, right? Where it's like, let's take that quiet time, right? Let's let our brains think about this information.
The fact that it makes it equitable, that spoke to me. It's like, oh,
yeah, because some students, I mean, I'm not saying it in the right way, but some students can kind of commandeer the conversation, right? If you're not careful with it. And so this is kind of gives a chance for everybody to hear it. I love that. And then Eric's, I think I've talked to him about this activity before, just to kind of clarify with that. The attendance one is like, he has a piece of paper, right? And the students are writing their answers to one or two other questions next to their name as that gets passed around. And so they're already working on activities as they're checking themselves into class there, right? So so whatever, that's adding the vocabulary words, or that's the activity as they're going through that whole thing. So really wonderful rituals that are kind of come into regular activities, and so they know the pattern of what they're trying to do every time they enter class, every time they exit class. It's kind of like a, it's like you get into that pattern, you get into that habit, and then you understand, like, hey, now I'm in the mood for learning, now I'm leaving the mood for learning, right? It's such a cool way to look at things.
Very cool.
All right, everybody. So we are halfway through. We got the tools and the activities, and just a quick request here for our 100th episode. It has been a while since we've gotten some reviews on the show. So if you have not given us a review, if you're listening in now, that would be the best present that we could get, is some updates on the reviews. And so if you could rate us and review us, 5 stars would be awesome. If you're on Apple or whatever platform you're on, really, it's just kind of helps the show get out there, helps other people see it and know that it's there. This show's been going on for a while, and we're still, I think, the only one that's specifically focused on EdTech and innovation, right? And so I know there's people that's into these conversations, and they're like,
ESL.
oh yeah, and ESL.
And
Yeah, sorry.
ESL. ESL, that's what makes us the niche.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I defaulted to my, I'm blind to my own knowledge here. So so please, if you would be willing, we would love to get a couple more reviews to kind of bump us up around the 100th episode. That'd be awesome. That is what keeps us going and gets us in front of other people's eyes. Of course, sharing it out with your colleagues. I know a lot of people do that as well, but thank you so much. That is our gift request for episode 100, our little celebration here. Okay, Esol, we're going to move forward into strategies. So we're going to start with strategies for students. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hey there, this is Robert Stroud from Hosei University in Japan, and the idea I'd like to share with you is about planning for students. This is something that has been researched a great deal for second language learners, and when I say planning, I mean giving them a chance to kind of prepare or reflect on how they perform, especially with things like presentations or discussions. So you can break planning down into pre-task planning, in-task planning, or post-task. Pre-task planning, what you should probably be doing with students is giving them a chance to, use some notes or a diary or maybe even just practice with a partner before they're kind of thrown in at the deep end to either present or discuss a topic. In task planning, that basically is just allowing students to, have the safeguard or the safety net of having some notes with them to check back on. And post-task planning, we're talking about after they've done something like some interaction, letting them sit down and, reflect on it so they can do better the next time. So planning is basically, looking at students and thinking, okay, this is a bit too heavy for them to ask them to communicate with this second language. So really putting some training wheels on or putting a safety net for them. I've had great success with this. I recommend trying to combine pre-task, in-task, and post-task planning together. I actually believe in it so much that I've created an actual textbook series that has been very, very successful called Smart Communication, that has a model that incorporates all these things together. So that's my advice, and I think you should really try it. Thanks very much.
Hello, folks. My name is Andrea Hedlund, and I've been working as a teacher of English for almost 20 years. But nowadays, I work much more as an educational consultant, a teacher trainer. I teach some graduate students in Brazil as well. And the topic that I love the most is the science of learning, something that I've studied for a while. And I really want to promote some strategies based on evidence. And this is exactly what I want to share with you today. And this is called retrieval practice or retrieving. So basically what you do is when you get input from your teacher, for example, so your teacher has just taught you something, you've just been exposed to new content, it takes time for your brain to process that. The best way for you to check if you are learning, because learning usually doesn't happen immediately after input, it takes time. Like I said, sometimes days, weeks, or more. The best way for you to check is by trying to remember, just trying to remember. So let's say your teacher gave you some input, and then after a couple of minutes, your teacher says, hey, everyone, just let's stop for 2 minutes, close your books, don't look at your notes, and try to remember what I just gave you. And that's retrieval practice. If you are studying on your own, you can also do that. One way to do it is, instead of reviewing all of your notes and rereading the material, just try to test yourself. So quiz yourself before you check. That's retrieval practice. So you test yourself and then you check. Because if you simply reread stuff, your brain will tell you that, this looks familiar, and that might be mistaken for, I know that. I know this content. Maybe you don't know. Maybe it just feels familiar. So the key here is retrieval practice. Quiz yourself, test yourself, and then check. And that's it.
Hi, my name's Dave Leheist. I was teaching at medical universities in Tokyo, but now I've moved my family to Ehime. Anyway, here's my little teaching tip. When you are doing presentations, like group presentations or individual presentations, don't give them too much time to prepare. I feel like with ChatGPT and DeepL and all of these things, the students tend to just either read or memorize translated documents. So what I do is in the beginning of the class, I just tell them you have 20 minutes to prepare your presentation. And I usually do group presentations because nobody wants to be alone on the stage. And at first it seems like, it's impossible, they can't do it. But, that impossibility, that feeling like it's just not possible to make it perfect, actually gives them a sense of relief that because it doesn't have to be perfect, they have to just rely on their skills as best they can. And they just kind of have a bit of fun with it rather than overthinking it, rather than, over practicing it. And I think that there's a real benefit to that. And because the improvements in AI translation and generation software, I really feel like the ability to kind of speak off the cuff is a skill that the students need to learn, and that is the missing link, and that's what I think it's worth focusing on. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Susan Akhavan, an ESL professor at Irvine Valley College and a proud colleague of Brent Warner. I currently teach adult ESL. There's one activity I do that is an ongoing semester-long assignment. I call it Connect the Dots. I tell my students that I don't care about what we do in class. Wait, what? Meaning that if the classroom learning doesn't translate to their own life, what's the point? So Connect the Dots is an exercise in noticing. This isn't anything the students have to specifically work on or search for. It's purely going about your daily life when suddenly something catches your eye and you have an aha moment when you realize a connection to something we studied in class. No matter what that is, a grammar topic, a story we read, or a casual conversation we had. For example, I was in line at the grocery store. I looked at the display with the candy and saw the word chocolate in big letters on one of them. We had recently practiced pronouncing reduced syllable words, and that was a perfect example. So I took a picture, showed it to my students the next day, and asked them what the connection was to class. They had several ideas, beyond what I even had in mind, and we talked about reduced syllables again. I pointed out that by simply noticing, we can reinforce our learning and put it into practice. For the assignment, when students notice something like this, whether seen or heard, they post an entry on a class discussion describing what they saw and what the connection is to class, posting a picture if possible. I require 3 posts for the semester. It sometimes requires reinforcing that this is not about searching out examples, but rather noticing in our daily life. One year, I had a student who was really enthusiastic about this activity and posted often. One of her posts I absolutely love, and I use it to clearly illustrate the idea of connect the dots. In class, we had used playing cards for an activity, so I taught my students the names of the suits. Soon after, the student posted a connect the dots. She explained she could remember 3 of the suit names, but not spades. Then it struck her. She went to her closet, pulled out the shoebox where she kept her wedding shoes, and there was the brand name and logo, Kate Spade. She said she would never forget the name of this suit. So, I hope you and your students enjoy noticing and connecting the dots.
All right. So, strategies for students. So happy to hear all of these, right? Like, I love it when the teachers are thinking about their students and figuring out ways to help their students, even if it's not like, it doesn't have to be class time, right? It can be part of it class time. Like, let's figure out how to maybe be more successful in class, but also just what are ways that you can learn better, right?
Yeah, life skills. A lot of it's just connecting back to life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the classroom.
Yeah. So I was really happy. And this is a cool one too, because it really travels all around the world. We've got teachers in Japan, Brazil, America, it's like we've got a big round. And I was very happy. Everybody, of course. But Susan Akhavan has been a big supporter of the show since day one. Really.
Yeah, since day one.
Yeah, and so it was really great to be able to hear her share a little bit. And I want to go back into this section because I think all of these kind of link together, right? And really can kind of give you kind of an interesting structure for helping your students out. So really cool stuff for sharing for strategies for students.
All right, so let's move on. Shall we hear about strategies for teachers?
Absolutely.
Let's dive in.
Hi, my name's Larry Ferlazzo, and I'm a high school teacher in Sacramento, California. I know we're only supposed to give 1 tip, but I'm going to give 4 tips in the same amount of time. They all are related and basically related to showing respect for students. One is don't give commands, instead make requests, including the word please. Apologize often. Explain the why behind rules, consequences, behaviors, and lessons as often as possible. And lead with what students can do instead of what they can't. Rita Pearson's most famous line is, "Kids don't learn from people they don't like." And I think if we follow these 4 strategies, odds are that our students are going to like us, which will mean we'll be more effective teachers. Thanks for listening.
Hi, Brent and Michelle. This is Mark McKeno from the ALCC, American Language and Culture Center at Southern Utah University, and I'm a former guest on your show, so I hope you remember me. I have a kind of a higher order tip and a lower order tip, more nuts and bolts style tip for teachers. Mostly, well, I'm imagining myself talking to a younger teacher here, but let's see. First of all, and this is the more higher order tip, is don't always presume or be conscious of your presumption, at least, that students are like you were at their age. I don't mean just in terms of the technology they're familiar with, but the kinds of things that motivate them. Some students are very motivated by contact with their peers, or like are more apt to listen to their peers than to the instructor. So, dogma or task-based or group discussion style activities are great for those kind of students, but a lot of students are also very motivated by the teacher's approval. And I wasn't one of those, but it's always, a struggle to remember that those students exist as well. The more lower order tip is remember, the value of biting your tongue sometimes. Actually quite often. When you see students having a discussion and they seem to be engaged and talking with each other, don't feel the need to butt in and give the teacher's perspective. A lot of the time, what they're hearing from their colleagues within the classroom is more valuable because it comes from them and doesn't have your proverbial stamp of approval. That wasn't that nuts and bolts. I guess it was a little nuts and bolts, but trust your students, and when you see them participating, don't assume that they need your teacherly gaze involved. And sometimes the absence of your teacherly gaze can be a benefit. All right, that's it. I'll see you guys later.
Hi everyone, and first of all, I'd like to say huge congratulations to Brent and Esol for 100 amazing episodes of the DIESOL podcast. I think it's a great resource to find out what's new and what's happening in the world of ELT, and to pick up some top tips for materials and resources that you can use in your lessons. I'm T, or Teresa, and I'm a materials writer and teacher trainer based in southern Spain. So my top tip for ELT is, it's one for the teachers out there and for educators, whatever role you're in. And really it's just to get involved in social media. I think there are lots of fantastic groups on social media, on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and just lots of educators who are constantly willing to share information, share articles, share updates. And so it's a really great way to continue keeping in touch with what's happening in the world of ELT. So here's to another 100 episodes of the DIESOL podcast. Bye.
Hello, my name is Richard Gray, and I teach in the non-credit ESL field. So, one of my favorite tools that I use is creating name cards of the students. So you can get a very simple 3x5 card and just, cut them in half. And you can write the names if you want, or you can have the students write their names, on one side. Usually the name that they want to be called in class. And on the other side, you can have them write, basic background information like, birthday or the reason they are learning English, favorite snacks or candy, their hobby, just simple things like that. This way, you can just know some basic and, fun information about each of your students. Now, there are a couple ways that I like to utilize these cards. One way is to call on students. So the name card is there to kind of randomly call out, on the student.
So this way, the same student isn't always answering the question, or you're not always calling on the same student to answer. Now, what I like to do for this is I like to shuffle all the student cards with their names facing up. Once I call on the first student, I put that card, on the back of the deck, but I put the name card face down, so I switch it. This way, I know that once I see students' cards again, that student's name card again, when it's face down, that shows that I've gone through all students, and I just need to shuffle the cards again. So yeah, you can also put tallies on the back or the front of the cards to mark if a student answers a question correctly or not too. So there are many ways that you can use name cards. So yeah, I believe it's effective. Again, name cards, it's low cost. It's an easy way to get everyone involved when answering questions. And when you're creating groups, you can visualize and see who are getting together. This also helps the teacher. It reinforces the teacher by thinking about the strengths and weaknesses of each student when you see their names, because again, you're thinking about them, when creating groups. So yeah, that's why I prefer, and it's something that I've been using for the past 4 or 5 years of my teaching career.
Hi, this is Winnie. I teach non-credit ESL at a community college. My teaching tip is to write small love notes to students throughout the semester. For example, on a unit test or a worksheet, I would put a message at the end, saying things like, "You're making good progress. Thank you for working hard. I love our class." For low levels, I also translate messages into different languages. You can even make it fancy by adding in a picture, meme, or an emoji. This is a great way to connect with students and motivate them to keep learning.
Wow. Brent, I'm sitting here and I feel, well, first of all, it's a little bit weird to hear all of these congratulations. So it's a little bit like, oh, this is so cool. It's so nice to hear it, but it's a little bit weird. But also I'm humbled by how many teachers are sharing what they do to connect in the classroom. As you said earlier, people are thinking about their students, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel humbled by because I'm learning myself in this episode. I'm learning new strategies too, getting ideas.
I love also that they don't have to, nobody's really focused on like the craziest things, right? It's just like, let's just get down to earth. Like, let's just really talk about
we're humans.
Yeah. Like everybody,
other humans.
really everybody here is talking about connecting, right? Like that just seems to be the way. And it's like, here's a strategy, but what does it mean to do? It means to make a better relationship with your students, right? Larry, we always love Larry. Just so much amazing stuff he shares, and he came in here and just knocked
4
it out
for
of
the price of 1.
I mean, I love it. Mark, Teresa, Gray, Winnie, we've had several of these people have been on the show in the past. Winnie also won Teacher of the Year last year at our school. So we had her on before, and she won Teacher of the Year last year.
That's awesome.
Really well deserved. So just like you're hearing from teachers who really care, and I just love that it's not like, oh, check out this most crazy thing that
how to catch your students cheating.
Yes.
A better plagiarizing check.
Yeah, none of that stuff. Like there's nothing going on there. There's no like you need this hottest new tool that nobody knows about, right? Nothing like that. It's just like straightforward, really helpful and really student focused, I think, for every conversation going on here. So I just want to give a huge thanks. I mean, this is what we do the show for, is like, hey, is it useful for people out there? And like now we're kind of, hey, this is useful for us. So just a big thanks for everybody
Thank
sharing
you very, very much.
Yeah, taking the time, dropping these notes in here, and we hope that that's been useful for everybody else too. And you really made a great 100th episode for us.
Yeah, and if you didn't make the cut for the deadline recording the recording deadline. Sorry, I'm saying things backwards. You can still share. Make sure to comment wherever you end up listening to this episode. We would love to hear your strategies, tips, and tools, and etc. So you can still participate.
Absolutely.
All right, it is time for our fun finds. And now I kind of want to say this episode is my fun find. Is that allowed?
Can we link the episode to itself? Sure, you can do it if you want to. It's our show. You can do whatever you want.
Well, my fun find this time, in addition to the show, to this episode, is a new Netflix series. It's called Arabawi School for Girls. It's if you've ever seen, I think 10 Reasons, what is it called? It's one of those teenage angst type of shows, but it's so well made, and it's based in a Jordanian high school. So you can watch the show in English. I started watching because I wanted to brush up on my Arabic, and I wanted to hear females speaking Arabic so that I could get the female Arabic speaking style. But it is such a good show. I actually think it's very well made. It's very relatable, and the main themes is the main theme is bullying, and we know bullying happens everywhere. It's not just in our schools here in the United States. But again, I just, especially if I work with international students, it's kind of just something to watch and learn from.
Awesome.
What do you have?
So mine is much less cultural than yours. So I was like, I got to find a great thing for the 100th episode, and I didn't. Well, this is just simple, but I've been wearing hats, like baseball caps, more recently, just whatever reasons, I don't know. But a nice fitted baseball cap. So I found that New Era, and I have a giant head, so I have a 7th, 8th head, and so it's really hard to find caps that fit me well or whatever. And even the ones with the snapbacks on them, like they don't fit me, like it has to be the last one, and they pop open. And so anyways, I finally found out that the fitted New Era caps are a great fit for me, and so I even got one with the Hanshin Tigers logo on it, so a little representation for Japan here as I'm living in this area. But yeah, so find a good hat. It's probably it's a nice thing to have.
A 7 and 7/8 hat.
Well, I mean, you'd have to send it to me, because I'm guessing most people don't have a head as fat as mine.
Now you know what to do with all those hats you got that were too big for you. Send them to Brent.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna have a giant mail pile of hats now. Yeah, so fitted caps. It's a much more comfortable experience than a unfitting, not well put together.
All right, for the show notes and other episodes, check out diesel.org/100 for this episode. 100, that's right. You can find us on YouTube, and you can find us on Threads.
That's right. You can find me on the socials at Brent G. Warner.
And these days, I'm actually mostly on LinkedIn, but on the other socials, I'm Ixy_Pixie. That's IXY_PIXY. To wrap things up, we have a mystery quote in another language. Un gran maestro toma la mano, abre la mente y toca el corazón. If you know what this quote means, drop us a line on the socials.
Thank you for listening to the DIESOL podcast.
Thank you.
Yay, 100. We're done.